Hello everyone, back tuning into today's first video. Later on today I'm going to have the CFS 6 months look ahead turning up, but this is the 7th and penultimate Winter 2014-2015 update. We're going to get together various things that we've been looking at throughout the autumn, such as solar activity, CISO temperature anomalies, ENSO, El Nino, Siberian snow cover, and all of that sort of thing. We've been looking at it through the past 6 updates. This is the 7th one. See how things have progressed since we did the last update, the 6th update last week. Now, can you believe we're talking about getting to the end of these updates now? There's just one more to come after this week, and that's going to be next week. The 8th update will be the last one. Then the week after that it will be Sunday the 30th of November, and I'll do the final seasonal model roundup video for the winter. And then the next day, Monday the 1st of December, that is when we are going to do the final and official GavsWeatherVids.com Winter 2014-2015 forecast. So we're reaching crunch time now. We really are getting towards end game in this process. Getting very, very, very exciting. If you want to know what the winter is going to be doing, you won't have all that much longer to wait, just another couple of weeks. Now, before I get on with the 7th update, just want to talk about the ads. There's links to articles sitting underneath the weather video here on my homepage at GavsWeatherVids.com. Have a browse through the widget. If there's any articles that you're interested in, just click through when you're finished at GavsWeatherVids, of course. You'll be able to go off and read those articles for yourself. Also, there's a video ad sitting above the weather video here on my homepage, and the video ads are on many of the other pages as well. If you hit play on the video ad, you'll be helping to support GavsWeatherVids.com. They're a new ad unit that I've just integrated over the past couple of days from AOL. Very excited about these ad units. If you want to support the website, just hit play and you'll be helping by doing that. Gas Shop is open, so if there's any Christmas shopping that you've got to do at Amazon between now and Christmas, all you need to do is click the Gas Shop button, which you can find underneath the weather video here on my homepage and on other pages as well. Go to Gas Shop, and then the key to everything is from Gas Shop to click through the Amazon banners, takes you off to Amazon. You just do your Christmas shopping as normal, basically, but at the same time, when you're buying these items for Christmas, these Christmas presents, GavsWeatherVids.com will get a royalty fee on the things that you're purchasing. All these things are basically paying for website, allowing me to sit here and talk to you via website. It's going to be quite a long video, so you can't watch it all in one sitting. Don't worry, it'll be kept at the website indefinitely. You can get to it from the seasonal page, so that's be fine if you can't watch it all in one go. And just to say, really enjoy the video. I hope you find it interesting and informative, and maybe a little bit fun as well. I'm talking of fun, I've been wearing my scarf here, but I'm going to take that off now and get rid of it, and we'll get on with the video. Right, so through this autumn, the big talking point from this autumn has been, to be serious for a moment, the OPI, the October Pattern Index from the forecasters in Italy. I've been updating it through videos on the blog as well. On Monday, we got the final number for the OPI from the forecasters in Italy, and the final number was this one. I'll get rid of the camera now. The final number was this one, minus 2.12. That was the OPI for October, the October Pattern Index. Very negative number. Back to 1976, it is the second most negative. Back to 1976, so the second most negative on record, only beaten by 2009. What this is essentially doing is it's attempting to sort of index the blocking that is happening over the pole, and when you've got a lot of blocking in October over the pole, it tends to create a lot of snow through Russia and Siberia, and that snow in turn feeds back later on through winter to an increased risk of blocking. I've explained this in other videos, but I have to go on about it again just in case anybody's watching this for the very first time. So when you get a lot of blocking, a very negative OPI number, this is the theory anyway, I've not tested it, this is the theory, and I believe it's going to be peer reviewed very soon. When you get a lot of blocking over the Arctic in October, that feeds back to rapid increase in snow cover across Russia through October, and that is what feeds back to the risk of increased blocking through the winter. Now, the OPI forecasters, as well as giving us this number, have also produced a forecast for the Northern Hemisphere based on that OPI number, and they go for a cold and average winter for the United States and for Europe as well. They're saying that both sides of the Atlantic should have a colder than average winter. They don't really mention the British Isles specifically, but if you assume that Europe's going to have a cold winter, there's no reason to suspect that the British Isles will be left out of that. Of course, because we're right next to the ocean, we will be less cold than most other places in Europe, except for maybe France, Portugal, Spain and Ireland, which are a little bit even further west than us, of course. But you get the idea that all parts of Europe should get a colder than average winter. They say that it may start off quite cold, then moderate a bit, and then get colder later on. We'll see how it goes. If you want to see this number and the forecast that they've issued based on this OPI number, the link to it is on my linked page, so do check it out if you get the chance. Right, let's get on with sea surface temperature anomalies next, and we're going to see how ENSO is doing, how the El Nino has to out. This is the current sea surface temperature anomaly for the globe. We've got the Atlantic over here, we'll have a look at it in a moment, and the Pacific just here. El Nino is a warming of the ocean along the equatorial Pacific just here, from Peru over here to Indonesia over here. Right, okay, so let's go back and see what it was showing when we did the last update, and this was it. We had got quite a bit of warming occurring across this central part of the Pacific on the last update. Let's go to now and see if any more warming has occurred. Well, has it occurred? I don't know. It's perhaps a little bit has occurred, but not a great deal has happened in the past week, actually. You could say it may have had a little bit of a stall, if anything. Let's go back to that situation last week when I did the 6th update. This is the situation for 7th update. I think I have had a little bit of warming, but not a great deal has happened. But nevertheless, we have got a very weak El Nino positive, ENSO positive El Nino signature here through the equatorial part of the Pacific. The rest of the ocean looking okay. Got the cold water around Australia, which northern Australia anyway, which should feed back to increased risk of high pressure there. Around Tahiti, we've got fairly warm sea surface temperature anomalies there, so that should lower the heights across Tahiti, and that really allows, when you've got that setup, atmospheric setup, that allows the El Nino to develop across the equatorial Pacific. So everything looks okay there. This cold water over here off the coast of Chile is looking very weak and patchy now, so that's not an influence. I think basically we are drifting very slowly into a weak El Nino. Now, we may never get this El Nino designated, as I was explaining in the last update. To get an El Nino designated, you basically have to have the temperature anomaly going above 0.5 degrees above average for this central part of the Pacific, which we probably got. But the other point is that it has to be over 5 tri-monthly periods, and that can be the snag with these weak events, because it can't, sometimes it doesn't quite stretch out to the 5 tri-monthly periods that you need. So whether this will ever be designated, I don't know, have to wait and see, but certainly have got a very weak El Nino signature there, and I would expect this, based on the rest of the Pacific Ocean setup, I would expect this to continue really through towards Christmas at least. Now up here across the northern part of the Pacific, across the northeastern part of the Pacific Ocean, we've still got this warm water around Alaska and going down the western coast of Canada and into America. This cold water is drifting in from the central northern Pacific, putting it under pressure, but not a great deal of cooling has happened. Let's go back to last week, that situation last week off the coast of Alaska and Canada and America, go through to now. If anything, we may have warmed up a little bit in that region just there. So there's a real fight going on now between this cold water just here and this warmer water just here. A real fight is taking place. Eventually this cold water through winter may drift in to this zone and cool it down. This is typically a very cold place in the oceans up here. You would not expect it to be very cold. We had the warm water up here last year and helped produce that very extreme pattern for the United States and into the Atlantic Ocean. I think we're going to keep this warm water certainly for the first half of the winter. Eventually this cooler water may drift in and cool things down, but for now I think still the warm water around Alaska is going on. It's going to go into the start of winter at the very least, but you've got warm water up here to help promote high pressure, and that can in turn feed back to that deep trough that sets up in the east and the north of the United States. So we're already seeing that sort of pattern occurring again at the moment, with the ridging around here, the deep trough over here, and very cold air plunging down into the eastern United States. We've already got that sort of idea taking place across America at the moment. The Atlantic Ocean, very quickly, we haven't got a tripole. We've got quite a warm Atlantic Ocean ready away from this colder zone just here, but it's not warm enough through the tropics to be, it's not warm enough there. It's not cold enough through this middle part of the Atlantic, and it's not warm enough to south of Greenland, so we definitely don't have a tripole. And of course a tripole is what we look for to eventually feed back to the chance of a negative North Atlantic Oscillation. Now that's not to say we can't get a negative North Atlantic Oscillation with this sort of setup, because we most certainly can. When you've got a tripole, you can also get a positive North Atlantic Oscillation as well. It's by no means the be all and end all, but certainly at the moment the Atlantic Ocean anyway, doesn't look particularly well set up for a negative NAO. That's no surprise. These updates started in June when I did the NAO update or the NAO forecast, and we didn't have a tripole in May, and I said it's unlikely we'll get a tripole occurring up to winter. We haven't got one yet. We'll wait and see whether one does eventually occur. SOI, very quickly, Southern Oscillation Index. The Southern Oscillation Index is basically what I was talking about just here, actually. It's this cold water around here, around Northern Australia, which links a high pressure there, and the lower than average heights with the warm water around Tahiti. So the index is just another way of describing the atmospheric pattern. Same with all the other indexes, the NAO, the AO, all of those indexes. They're all just ways of describing the pattern, basically. And well, we've have gone a little bit positive with the SOI over the last few days, just telling us that the negativity in the atmosphere has eased off a little bit. It's very negative when I did the last update, of course, posting very negative numbers, minus 27, minus 21, minus 18. Over the past few days, the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, we've been seeing the negativity easing off. We actually went a little bit positive on the 12th and the 13th, and on the 14th, when I'm doing a video today, we posted an SOI of plus 1.71. So if anybody, it's starting to drift back a little bit towards the negative side of things. These numbers don't really impact on much. They're not positive enough to sort of be fighting against what the ocean is doing. If I was to go much more positive than say that, plus 7.76, then yeah, we'd start to see the atmosphere fighting against the ocean again. But at the moment, I think things are still looking okay, really, in terms of the SOI. And of course, as I said, the pattern that I've got in the Southern Ocean in the Pacific does look okay to continue generally. We'll get days where it eases off, but to continue generally the atmospheric setup that should allow this weak El Nino to keep going. Right, let's go on to solar activity, and this is the solar disk on our side of the disk today from solarham.net, and solar activity today is officially designated as low. We did get a bit of a spike up a few days ago, but we've gone back towards the lower side of average, and we can expect really to continue to get these spikes up over the next year or two as we're drifting away from solar maximum, which had occurred last winter, towards solar minimum, which will occur sometime around 2019. Now, you're familiar with this chart, I'm sure. This is from NASA. It's the it's the solar cycle 24 sunspot number prediction. This hasn't been updated since August. Actually updated at the start of September, taking into account the solar activity that occurred during August. And at that point, we'd had the spike up, of course, that occurred at the start of 2014 in the winter, drop down through Reaver Spring, and then up to August we were spiking up a little bit once again. Notice how much weaker this solar cycle is, solar cycle 24, compared to solar cycle 23, the last solar cycle. But anyway, it was spiking up just a little bit in August. This hasn't been updated, but I've managed to find another chart which is current, goes right up to where we was in October. It's basically just another reflection of this, but with different colours and different terms of the graph, essentially. But this is where we are right now, just here. So this little spike up just here, of course, there's the peak that we had at the start of the year in January and February 2014. There's the drop down with the curve Reaver Spring, and then that takes us up to where the NASA chart is just there. In August, that little movement upwards, little hook upwards. In September, we got a big push upwards. Look at that. We actually went up quite a bit in September, had quite a big spike. But in October, we get this big drop down from September to October. So that is the very latest position of where we are in terms of this sunspot cycle. Takes us up to October 2014 with a very big drop down from September to October. Now, October 2014 coming out there is the weakest month in terms of sunspot numbers of 2014, and that takes us back towards this sort of cluster just here. Very interestingly, it takes us back to the years of 2012, 2013. Well, the first half of 2013 anyway. Of course, the second half of 2013 is when we get that big ramp up into the winter of 2013-2014. But this just here takes us back to where we was through most of 2012 and the start of 2013, and that of course is when we're getting cooler conditions, cooler winter conditions, and also interestingly colder summer type conditions as well. And the warm summer of 2013 occurs when this push up begins to take place in activity. So very interesting anyway where we was in October, with the drop from September to October in terms of those sunspot numbers. Have to see where things go for November, of course. Will we drop down? Will we go back up? As I say, we can expect further spikes up. If you have a look at solar cycle 23, you can see that we did get these regular up and downwards movements in activity, while all the while progressing downwards into the solar minimum, which occurs in this area just here. But yeah, it's not a linear process. You get spikes upwards and downwards, while the general trend overall is to move down. So maybe for November we'll spike up a bit, maybe we'll go down further. We'll have to wait and see. While we're getting these spikes, until we get right into the depth of the solar minimum anyway, while we're getting these spikes, this isn't a great position of the solar cycle to get a cold winter. But nevertheless, this tells us just here, 2012-2013, this period just here tells us that even though we're getting spikes upwards and drops downwards, we got a cold winter then. So if we're in that sort of area there for this winter, maybe we could pull off a colder than average winter. It'll be very interesting to see how it progresses anyway. But I thought you'd find that interesting to see, because this hasn't been updated. This is from NASA. It has been updated for quite a few months now, whereas this from NOAA, NOAA in the United States, this is very current. So I thought you'd enjoy seeing that. I've probably gone off on a bit of a tangent, gone on too long about that, but I thought you'd enjoy seeing it anyway. Right, very quickly whistling through hurricane activity. Very little development there. Remember, hurricanes are dumping warmth from the tropics into the pole, basically. So the more hurricanes you get, the more warmth getting dumped into the northern latitudes. When you get a lot of warmth dumped into the northern latitudes, it can eventually feed back to the chance of a colder than average winter, or an increased risk of blocking, which then feeds back to the chance of colder than average winter. We haven't had many hurricanes this season. We had more of a season than last year, but even so, we've only had a total of 8 storms, 6 hurricanes, and 2 major hurricanes, so nothing much going on there of interest. This is the latest this latest Siberian snow cover across Russia and Siberia going into Scandinavia as well. So this is the current position when I'm doing a video on Friday the 14th of November. This was the position when I did the last update, and we've probably lost a bit across Scandinavia, but I think we've gained a little bit across Russia, so pushed back a little bit through Russia, lost a little bit across Scandinavia. Overall, very little difference really over the past week, and I'm not sure this is terribly impactful now. It really is October, tying in with that OPI, I think, OPI number. It really is October that's important for this, but I thought you'd find it interesting anyway to see where the current Siberian snow cover is. I'm sure before much longer we'll start to see this beginning to progress right the way through Russia. Before much longer it's got to get into the far west of Russia, I would have thought, but at the moment it's still pinned back a little way from the west. Right, have a look at the QBO next. That will take us to what I'm going to look at for the end of the video, which is some more analogues from my good friend Stuart Markham. I showed you his Twitter page last week. If you're on Twitter, please do follow Weather Stu at Twitter. He's provided me with some fantastic analogues. Really has been invaluable in his help for these particularly this update and the last update really has been invaluable for the help he's provided me. So the QBO is going easterly. I talked about this in the last video. In this white section just here, or these white sections just here, that's when we're in easterly QBO. What's happening in an easterly QBO is that the zonal westerlies are weakening across the northern hemisphere. When we're in these grey sections here, that's a westerly QBO, which is a strengthening of the zonal westerlies. So for example, 2013-2014 was a westerly QBO winter, and boy did we have strong zonal westerlies. So we're going to be in an easterly QBO for this winter at the very least. That gives us a different northern hemispheric setup. Doesn't necessarily mean we'll have a cold winter. I don't want to go over all that again, but there have been easterly QBO winters that haven't yielded colder than average winters for us anyway, so it's by no means a guarantee of anything. We're just about into the easterly QBO now. By the way, when you get to 50 HPA, which is that area just there, what you're looking at here, I'll just very quickly explain it. 10 HPA, 20 HPA, 30 HPA, and so on down to 100. This is the atmosphere basically. So at 10 HPA, you're right at the very top of the atmosphere in the stratosphere, whereas at 100, you're virtually down on the surface. Now, where you want to get to with these numbers is 50 HPA. When you get to 50 HPA, that's sort of, or 30 to 50 HPA anyway, that's sort of the area in the atmosphere where you've got weather taking place. Really high pressure and low pressure are developing. So when the ECQBO gets down to 30 to 50 HPA, and we're more or less there now, that is when basically the QBO is in its either positive or negative phase, westerly or easterly. So the ECQBO has more or less got down to 50 HPA. It's certainly down to 30 HPA, it's more or less down to 50 HPA. We're in the easterly QBO now. So let's have a look at some of Stuart's analogues. My good friend Stuart Markham has provided me with some more very interesting analogues for this 7th winter update. What Stuart's done for this one is combined sub -1 OPIs, October Pattern Index, indexes with easterly QBO. So we're basically going back to where we was at the start with the OPI and where we was a second ago with the QBO. We're going to be in an easterly QBO. We have had OPI number coming out under -1. So let's combine the two and see what sort of winter patterns that yields. The first thing that we're looking at here is a graph showing the OPI and the winter central England temperature. Very quickly, just to talk about this. This encompasses all winters, whether they're easterly or westerly QBOs or whatever. Very interestingly, the blue bars are the negative OPIs. The red spikes here, or the red graph, red line, is the winter central England temperature. I think you can very clearly see that when the OPI is posting negative numbers, we're tending to get cold winter CET, central England temperatures. And it's the case whether it's a westerly or an easterly QBO, really. Conversely, when the OPI is posting positive returns, and that's these blue bars up here, we're generally posting positive central England temperatures as well, generally having milder winters. Notice this blue bar just here, that is the OPI for 2009, October 2009. The red dip in the graph there, in the line, that is the central England temperature for the winter of 2009-2010. Very clear connection there between the negative OPI, the most negative of any of these OPIs going back to 1976. Very clearly a negative OPI going with that cold winter. Also notice in the 1980s, which is just here, quite a few negative OPIs then, and we get those colder than average cluster of winters from 84, 85 through to 86, 87. Very interesting graph, and thanks very much to Stuart for showing me that. But we've got more to look at. We've got the 500 millibar flow charts from those winters that have easterly QBOs combining with OPIs coming out below -1. Hope you're able to follow me with this. And we've also got the Central England temperature for those months. So we're starting off with December. We've got December 76, December 84, December 86, and then December 2009, December 2012. So what's evident first of all is that most of these years, not 1986, but most of the other years are providing quite a bit of blocking up over the northern latitudes around Greenland, going to the northeast of the country. They all have those sort of yellow and orange colours there, although December 1986 doesn't. It deviates, and we've got below average heights to the north and a ridge down to the south, and a westerly sort of setup. December 2009 showing a lot of northern blocking, and we've also got blocking, not to the same degree perhaps, but we've also got some northern blocking there for December 2012. The Central England temperatures for those years, we've got blue, black and red indicating below average and above average Central England temperatures. So December 76 is coming out colder than average, December 84 is coming out around average, December 86 is above average. Remember, a different pattern for December 86, it is a westerly pattern. December 2009 colder than average 3.1, and December 2012 central temperature comes out at 4.8, again a little bit colder than average. So the general theme is that you've got a greater chance of a colder than average December with an easterly QBO and the OPI under -1, although there are some years that come out average or above average. Going through to January, these are the 500 millibar anomalies for January with central England temperatures combined. So we've got January 77, January 85, January 87, January 2010, January 2013. And for January 77, again, quite a bit of blocking there, up to the northern latitudes, was a colder than average month at just plus 2.8. December 85, very cold month at 0.8, plus 0.8, almost a negative central England temperature. Lots and lots of blocking up there around Greenland and to the northern latitudes with those red colours, a very extremely negative North Atlantic oscillation with all those blues and purples running to the south. January 87 central England temperature, same as January 85 actually, comes out at 0 plus 8. Again, lots of blocking. You know about January 1987, I'm sure. January 2010, very cold month, comes out at with a central England temperature of 1.4. And again, lots of northern blocking. Very similar pattern January 2010 to January 85. Interestingly, the anomalies there are very similar. I'm not sure you can quite see that, but the anomalies for January 85 and January 2010 come out very, very similar. January 2013, and we've got a little bit less blocking actually. It wasn't as cold as the other month. Central temperature of 3.5 still comes out below average. But what's interesting is that every month here is colder than average. So perhaps the greatest risk of a colder than average month with an ECQBO and an OPI below -1 is January. Let's have a look at February and see whether that is indeed the case. We've got February 77 here, February 85, February 87, February 2010, February 2013. So February 77 is deviating to a milder pattern. I've explained this in other videos. Winter 76, 77 started off quite cold, got mild by February, and it comes out with an above average central temperature of 5.2. It's quite interesting how that happened, because we've still got a lot of blocking up over Greenland. It's just that the Atlantic became more buoyant and we started to lift the heights to the south of the country as well. But it's very close, I think, now to a colder than average month. We're not taking much of an adjustment for February 77 to come out colder than average. February 85, very cold month, just central temperature 2.1. Wasn't quite as cold as January, but still cold with a fair amount of snow. February 87, again a bit of a moderation compared to January. It's still colder than average CET at 3.6, but it's milder or less cold really than was the case in January 1987. That big freeze in January 87 did moderate later on. February 2010, comes out with a central temperature of plus 2.8 with that OPI under -1 and an easterly QBO. So again, all of these months are really sort of moderating from the January, although that's still a very negative NAO pattern. Still lots of blocking there across Greenland, still the trough going underneath it, so the NAO is negative, just that the pattern is moderating a bit from the extreme pattern of January. And then we have February 2013, which is actually getting a little bit more extreme, interestingly. The other patterns are sort of easing off, but in February 2013 the pattern is getting more extreme. Actually, the blocking is intensifying, as we know, that eventually led to that extremely cold March. The central temperature for February 2013 comes out at 3.2, again colder than average. So again, it's not every single month like January that's colder than average, but most of these months in February are coming out colder than average. All of the months in January are coming out colder than average, and most of the month in December are coming out colder than average as well, but a little bit more of a deviation in December compared to what we see for January and for February. But for January, it's a very strong signal for a colder than average month. When you add it all together, all of those years together, for all of the winter of those years, with an ECQBO and an OPI below -1, this is what you come out with. This is the 500 millibar height anomaly, and it's very impressive, isn't it? Lots of blocking there around Greenland and to the north. North Atlantic Oscillation is through the floor, so is the Arctic Oscillation, taking the lower than average heights through the Atlantic to the south of the country. That's a cold pattern, isn't it? We're bringing in easterly, northeasterly winds with that. It's a cold winter pattern there for Europe, and interestingly also for the United States. So Stewart's analogues are very interesting. They again sort of backing up the idea that with the OPI as negative as it's been and going into the easterly QBO, well, on the face of that, we should get a colder than average winter. But what I have noticed with these years is that most of them, 2012, 2013, a little bit different, but most of these other years are falling around just before or just after solar minimum. And the thing that's interesting about this winter is that we're just coming off the solar maximum, and we're probably going to get spikes in solar activity. So that is going to be a complicating factor. But certainly just putting the OPI and the QBO together, very, very strong sort of signal there for a colder than average winter. It's all helping me as I build up towards December the 1st when I do the winter forecast. Thanks so much to Stuart for the analogues he's been providing me with. Hopefully we may have a couple more for the final update next week. It's all helping build up the picture really for the winter forecast, which will be issued on the 1st of December. Hope you found the video interesting and informative. Hope I haven't rambled on too long. I'm fascinated by all of this, and when I get into my stride I really do get going, so I hope I haven't gone on too long. Right, that's it. I'm off to rest my voice. I'll be returning with another video this afternoon which will be the CFS 6 months look ahead. I'm late with that for all of these other updates I've been doing, so I'm going to get that in for you this afternoon. If you're interested in what the CFS model is showing for the next 6 months, come back to the home page this afternoon. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.